Welcome to the Brand and Market Podcast, where branding clarity meets marketing strategy. I'm your host, Allie Haney, founder of Brand and Market, a boutique agency dedicated to helping small businesses craft intentional brands and effective marketing plans. Each week, I share practical tips and insights to help you, especially those of you in real estate-related industries, build a standout brand to attract your brand's biggest fans. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. Today is a solo episode, so you guys get to hear me talk, and I'm super excited to dive into a little bit more about the operations side of our business as opposed to the branding and marketing side of the business, which is where I usually am. The opening of Luna is coming up quickly. We are hoping to have her open to the public by the end of the month, so the end of January. And as we are preparing to have that opening, we are making sure all of the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And with that comes the technology, the tech stack that goes along with it. So I'm actually not going to be talking about softwares today, which I think is typically how tech stack is used, but I'm going to be talking about some of the pieces of technology that we are using in the actual home and our experiences with each of those. As we've been continuing to scale and take on more properties, it's been increasingly important to be able to monitor those properties when we're not physically there. It's been increasingly important to be able to automate some things like in terms of lot codes and stuff like that. So if you are in the beginning of your short-term rental journey, this episode is going to be specifically helpful to you. The three things that I really wanted to touch on is first, I'm going to go through the Schlage lock, the smart lock that we have in Luna. And then we are going to go into Google Home. And finally, I'm also going to walk you through Starlink, which is the internet that we have at both the Kentucky and Luna. That might be really applicable to you if you're in a place that doesn't yet have like fiber internet or any other type of like CenturyLink type of internet, whatever your local provider is. Those are the three topics we're going to be talking about today. Let's start off with the Schlage lock. So we are using a smart lock. We used this at our very first property that we launched in 2019. That's the one that was on the coast of North Carolina. And at that point, that was actually before Airbnb created an integration with Schlage, which they now have, and it's super duper helpful. But back then, I used the last four digits of everyone's phone number, and that was their individual lock code. And that's how they access the property once they arrived. And that lock code was set to only apply to the times of their reservation. I had to go in and manually do that, although into the Schlage app. However, even though I was like all the way in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and the property was on the coast of North Carolina. So it was really great for me to be able to remotely manage that from 5 hours away. Now, what you can do with the Schlage and code lock is that as long as it's connected to Wi-Fi, so that's, of course, an important piece of it. If it's connected to Wi-Fi, it can be automatically synced to your Airbnb account and an increasingly large number of PMS systems like Lodgify and Hospitable. It can be connected in those PMS accounts as well, so that when you get a new reservation, it can automatically set the code for that property for the specific reservation time amount. So for example, let's say I am booking Luna for, I'm going to speak this into existence, February 1st, the first days that we're open, February 1st to the 5th. The last four digits of my phone number are going to automatically be applied as my code, and I get notified as such. And then from February 1st at my check-in time to February 5th at my check-out time, my code will be active. And you're able to be notified which code is used when. So another use case for this is because we are about 3 hours away from Luna, I'm able to assign contractors codes so that I know who is going in and out and at what times. I don't have to give them my master code. I can give them their own specific code so I can kind of time track when they arrived, when they left, and if they locked up when they left. The final thing that's super nice about this is that you can use it to lock and unlock from afar. So let's say a guest left and they forgot to lock the front door. I can always check that if I don't get a notification that the door was locked around checkout time. I can go in and I can lock the door all the way from 3 hours away or across the country or out of the country for that matter. So it's really nice to be able to have those Schlage and code locks in order to operate your short-term rental remotely. And Schlage is not the only the only smart lock that is available to do this. There's also Yale locks. There's also August locks. And I actually just connected the Schlage lock to our Airbnb account for Luna today. So I went in and I looked at the different types of locks that you could use through that Airbnb integration, and all three of those were there. So those are all good options. I just know Schlage the best because I've used them on and off since 2019. The next thing that I want to touch on is the Google Home ecosystem, I guess is what you would call it. So one thing that we have done most recently in Kentucky and now Luna is we have installed exterior cameras so that we can see the amount of cars that are at the properties. We can also see whether or not guests bring pets in, which is, of course, important, A, because the Commonwealth in Kentucky, we don't allow pets, and B, because we do charge an additional pet fee we will charge an additional pet fee for Luna once the doors to Luna are open. What I love about that, though, is that we have the cameras at the Commonwealth, we have the cameras at Luna, and we also have cameras on our own personal home so that we can keep an eye on it when we're not here. However, I can access all three sets of those cameras within one Google Home account. I can just switch between the homes, and it's very, very seamless. And you can add as many cameras as you'd like. To my knowledge, there's not a maximum amount of cameras. I think total between those three accounts, we have 9 total. In addition to that, we can also connect if we wanted to do like a Google speaker or Google Nest, which is the heating and air component of the thermostat that you can install like a smart thermostat in each of your units as well. We did do the Google Nest when we had the property on the coast of North Carolina, and that was super nice to be able to go in and adjust the temperature for, when the guest wasn't there. If they didn't follow checkout procedures and adjust the thermostat, then we could always do it from 5 hours away. And so that was super duper nice. And that can also be included inside of that same Google Home app for each of the individual properties. It's really, really convenient to be able to have them organized so efficiently. So far, my feedback for the Google Home cameras has been 10 out of 10. I don't have any complaints with them at all. The other piece to that is the recording of whenever the motion triggers the camera. So you have two options. Of course, you can just have the live view, and the free version is live view plus 10 seconds of motion. We don't pay for it at our own personal home, but we do for the rentals, and that's just $100 a year. So it's a pretty affordable cost considering you can then go back and look at the camera in a past time for a longer amount of time than 10 seconds, further than just the motion triggered amount of time. So we've been really pleased with that as we've continued to grow. In the past, we have used other cameras. At the first North Carolina house, we used what was called Link, and those were really great in some senses, but had some drawbacks in others. So the Link cameras, they were hardwired into a hard drive, and it recorded to the hard drive directly for, I'm remembering from a few years ago, but I think it was a solid 14 days of footage. It recorded constantly, and you could go back and see every single little, every minute of every day. So that was helpful, but the hard wiring process to actually get all of the wires from the exterior cameras to the interior hard drive was a little bit more invasive, I guess, because the hard drive had to be centrally located within the house. And this one, with the Google Home cameras, they do still have to be run from the exterior to the interior, but it's just to the nearest outlet. So it's not like you're having to run wires all the way through your house to get back to that hard drive, if that makes sense. We have used Link in the past. We enjoyed it at the time, but I do feel like the Google Home cameras are better in terms of install and in terms of being able to centrally locate not just the cameras, but also potentially the smart thermostat and potentially any speakers or anything that you might have attached to the Google Home ecosystem. So that has been an incredible discovery by Caleb that was all being able to be tracked within the app. Hey host, let me ask you a question. How are you managing your short-term rental operations? if you're still juggling between multiple apps and platforms, it's really time to simplify with Lodgify. I just started using Lodgify for my properties, and I have to say it's a game changer. The unified inbox lets me manage all my messages in one place, and there's no more bouncing back between the Airbnb app and the VRBO app. Their task management system is perfect when scheduling and working with cleaners or contractors. It keeps everyone on track and ensures that nothing slips through the cracks. And one of my favorite features, the direct booking site. It's super easy to set up, very user-friendly, and it helps me reduce my reliance on OTAs like Airbnb and VRBO, and I get to keep more of that booking revenue. Lodgify's support team is also top-notch. They were incredibly responsive and thorough during that onboarding process initially, which made the switch to their platform absolutely seamless. Here's the best part. You can get 20% off your annual subscription when you use my link. Head to www.brandonmarket.co/Lodgify to sign up and start streamlining your property management today. So we went over Schlage and code locks. We went over the Google Home cameras that we've been using. We do intend to install a Google Nest in Luna, and we are currently trying to figure out if it is at all possible to connect it to the geothermal systems that we have at the Commonwealth in Kentucky. So we are making all of our homes smart so that we can more easily control them remotely. The final thing that I want to touch on is Starlink. The Commonwealth property in Kentucky is very, very rural, and the Luna property is also very, very rural. That one's in the mountains. So while they did have, like, if you remember from one of the Elysian episodes, we actually went and stayed at the property before we purchased it as an Airbnb guest. And when we were there, Caleb was working remotely, and the internet was, when it was working, it was fast, but it was kind of intermittent. It would cut out every once in a while, and we were only there for like less than 24 hours. So we were like, we know this, it works okay, but we would love to find a solution that is a little bit more reliable. And so throughout, between like that time, when we went and stayed back in September at what was then the Toasted Marshmallow is now Luna at Elysian, and when we purchased it and installed the internet, we also were looking for new internet services at the Commonwealth in Kentucky. So when we went initially to investigate like Starlink, that was probably close to 2 years ago. And the hardware was what I felt, extremely expensive. It was around $600 just for the hardware itself. And it wasn't like the service, I don't think, was as good as it is now. I'm not super sure because like none of the neighbors had Starlink at that time either. So fast forward to now, the hardware for the Commonwealth in Kentucky was much more affordable. It was about half the price. I want to say it was between like, we got an upgraded like stand or something. So it was closer to $400, but it was around $350 minus the upgraded stand or branch thing like off the house. And then for the materials in Fancy Gap at Luna, that was free. And I guess they are running some promotions on the actual equipment itself in specific geographical areas to try and get more Starlink users in those areas. So we did not pay anything for the equipment in Fancy Gap, but we did pay around between $350 and $400 for the equipment at the Commonwealth. There are 2 different tiers of service that you can get for the actual internet itself. The like lower residential light was around $80 a month, and then the slightly faster speed was $120 a month. So we did go with the $80 a month for Luna and $120 for the Commonwealth. I think we're going to actually downgrade the one at the Commonwealth because it seems like everything that we've done at Luna, we've not had any issues at all with the like lower speeds. So that seems to be the route to go for us, since we're not, people are not there spending a huge amount of time streaming things. And that was the main thing that made us need to look for a new internet provider in Kentucky, was that we were not able to stream things. Before switching over to Starlink, we used Viasat, which is a satellite internet, and it was absolutely awful. It almost felt isolating being there with no internet while having the expectation that you should have internet. Even when we were living there full time, I would sometimes not be able to take video calls on a cloudy day because it was blocking the signal. It was not fast. It was not efficient. It was not reliable. And it was $117 a month. So it was, $3 less, but it was very comparable. And now if we bump down to the $80 a month service, we're going to get better service with even less of a monthly bill. All that to say, I'm a big fan of Starlink. It has given us internet in 2 different very rural locations now, and you are able to pay for the installation of the equipment. However, Caleb was able to install the equipment for both the Commonwealth and for Luna. I do think it is, user-friendly enough if you're a little, handy to be able to do it on your own. To give you kind of another story about Starlink, my mother and father-in-law just built a lake house in Clarksville, Virginia, and they were looking for internet there as well. They don't have anything except Starlink is their only option. So, or maybe HughesNet, which is similar to Viasat, which is trash. So they also went ahead and did Starlink, and they wanted to hire somebody to be able to do the install. And they have had a lot of issues trying to get someone out there in order to do the install. So I will say that I don't have specific experience that is positive with the installation process if you are using their people to install. So that's just one thing that I wanted to throw out there in case that is something that you don't feel comfortable being able to install yourself. That gives you a little bit of a glimpse into what it looks like to set up the tech at an Airbnb. The Schlage encode lock, Caleb set that up within 15 minutes. The Google Home cameras there, easier to install than the previous cameras we've used, but that was a good half-day project to make sure that everything was connecting the way it was supposed to connect and getting the wires ran from the exterior to the interior. And then last but not least, Starlink is a great option, especially if you're looking for internet in a very rural area that might not have any other options. And what I would feel is a pretty comparable price monthly to a traditional internet service. Thank you so much for listening today. I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but I'm doing my best to take y'all's feedback and enact it. And you guys said you wanted a couple of shorter episodes because I can certainly get on here and talk all day. But I do want to say if you are looking for a short-term rental to purchase, I have just recently created a free checklist all about the acquisitions process of a new short-term rental, from the pre-offer phase when you are analyzing the deal to see if it's a good one, through the due diligence phase once you have put in an offer and it's accepted, all the way to post-closing and making it live on Airbnb or your PMS, your direct booking site, whatever direction you decide to choose. So I would love for you guys to check in the show notes. If you're driving, don't do it while you're driving. Make a mental note, do it once you stop. And I would love to be able to gift you that for free. So please go and grab that if you are in that phase of your short-term rental journey. Until next week. You just completed another episode of the Brandon Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.